for their master. What they did with their time after that was completely to themselves, and some of them ran businesses. Now, whatever money that they made on those businesses outside of their master's hours was their own. Their master had no ownership of that. And so a lot of slaves, believe it or not, were wealthier than so-called free men who were struggling to make a living and were being not able to compete with bigger businesses, and they were being squeezed out of the market. And there were destitute free people, and there were people actually selling themselves into slavery because it was better off. You were better off as a slave. So yeah, we're still kind of caught up in that world, and that's coming from the age of Nebuchadnezzar, who would have been around 4,500, 5,000 years ago. So we haven't really come very far, have we? 5,000 years, not come very far. That's very slow progress. But I'm in the middle of trying to change a career or carve out a new career. And I'm in the civil service at the moment, and there are people trying to desperately get into the civil service because they think it's a great pensionable job and all of this sort of thing. Whereas personally, I hate the desk. I can't stand it. I'd much prefer to be, I'd love to have an outdoor job if I could, being a surveyor or something. Just get me out, straight in the back. I'm going to have to get a standing desk like James at some stage. But every day I sit in that chair at the desk, I just die a little bit more. So that was a very long answer. I think, Aidan, I've gone over 2 minutes. What's happened to that bell of yours? I'm boring people to tears here.
Did you not hear it? Can you not hear the bell?
I didn't. So I've given you absolutely no conclusion, just a whole load of middle-aged man's ramblings. Thank you, Master Toastmaster.
Thank you very much.
So,
yes, Amar, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Whatever quote you mentioned, I remembered about time management. I read about this time management, like I read the book, like there's a 4 quadrants you need to work on, like important and not urgent. So like urgent and urgent. So this second quadrant, that the author talks about second quadrant to work on important and not urgent any topics of that. So if you work on urgent and urgent topics, so you work on very urgent topics and you won't think about, you'll run about whole day of doing the urgent topics. But if you plan accordingly and you do important and which is not urgent, maybe it's not today, maybe it will in the future, but it's very important work, you want to do it. So if you plan it, and again, it again related to the presence. So at the present, you plan it, what are the important topics, and work on that. So it actually helps you, instead of running, you can work with the day instead of running with the day. So that's my tip. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are we stopping, Antoinette?
Well, we're just at 8:41. Do you want to do one more?
Okay. Okay. So we have been doing Zoom for probably 6 months now. So what do you think, Timothy, what do you think? Are we kind of running out of steam in terms of Zooming, or can we continue like this? How long can we continue like this? What do you think?
Ooh, we can do it indefinitely. I think the meetings online are less than ideal. I think we're all looking forward to getting back to real meetings, physical meetings, but they're better than nothing. They're a reasonable substitute, and they do have certain advantages. Like, I've been to a meeting in California. I'm in this meeting here with you now. And so there are those advantages of the online meetings. And I think as long as their physical meetings aren't possible, or even when they are possible but are not advisable perhaps, or people aren't comfortable with them, as long as there's reason for the online meetings, I think they can happen and will continue to happen. I don't think there's a time limit and we're going to say, no, we can't do this anymore. I think individual people will take breaks, especially if you're working and your job involves a whole bunch of video meetings, and then Toastmasters is again a video meeting. I think that's less relaxing than a physical meeting. And some people are spending their lives in Zoom these days, right? I mean, they're teachers or project managers or some sort of job that involves a lot of meetings, and they're all on the screen, all online. And then you expect to do your hobby online as well, and it just doesn't feel as different from work as it should feel, because you don't have a different environment the way you do for a physical meeting. When you go into a hotel for Toastmasters, when you work in an office, it just feels different. And for Zoom now, we're doing both in the office, and so I think people will drop out and skip a meeting or 2 meetings or 3 meetings and then come back. But I think we as a group can continue doing online meetings as long as we need to do so. I don't think there's anything, as long as everybody doesn't drop out at the same time, I think we can keep going. I think I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else wants to go for it?
Yes, Samesh,
Please go ahead.
I'd like to just comment on that, on Zoom and the new technology. I think there's some very positive aspects to it. It's kind of opened up a new world to me, where you can have your meetings online, that you're not tied to an appointment, and the considerable amount of effort that it takes to be there and be ready and to drive there and to look presentable and all that kind of stuff. So and it's kind of it's a discovery, that I see it as a discovery to me personally, because I'm like the type of person, I'm not very into technology, but when I see something that works, it's just recovering something new or discovering something new. So I'm sure the gloss will go off at some stage. You know, if I had more Zoom meetings, if I was tied to Zoom meetings from 9 to 5 and then do my hobby over Zoom, yes, I can imagine it would get tiresome, just as Timothy would say. But no, it adds a nice dimension, and it enables the Toastmasters to keep going indefinitely in a safe manner. So no, I agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Amar, please. Please go ahead, Amar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Personally, I would prefer real contact with real people. I find this enjoyable and it's working, but still there is nothing like face-to-face contact. Nothing like it.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Anyone else?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Back to you, Antoinette.
Okay. Thank you, Samesh. Thank you for a very enjoyable table topic section, and thank you to all who participated in this valuable part of the meeting. Now, we're moving on to the next part of the meeting, where we will get an opportunity to hear our prepared speeches. So at the end of each speech, we will all get an opportunity to provide feedback. So this will be done using the chat feature on Zoom. So I'm not sure, everyone has a different, I'm on an iPad, but depending on what you're on, the chat is up at the top on mine. You can we'll get time at the end of each speech to make a comment for the person that has given the speech. So our first speech this evening is from Samesh. As Samesh looked after our topics, I have already outlined what inspired him to join Toastmasters. And our speech evaluator for this speech is Joe. And when I asked Joe what inspired him to join, he told me he was inspired by a vision of flawless presentation skills that he could bring. to interviews. And to his joy, when he joined, he discovered that Toastmasters was much more than that, and it offered many more communication skills. So he got a lot from Toastmasters. So I would like to ask Joe to give the objectives, please, for Samesh's speech.
Certainly, thanks, Antoinette. Now, I'm just looking at a new evaluation form here, and I think this is, no, that's the bit about the speech. Yeah, the purpose of the speech. So the purpose of this project, Samesh, is for you to apply your understanding of social media to enhance an established or new social media presence. The purpose of this speech is for you to share some aspect of your experience establishing or enhancing that social media presence. And your time, I think, is it 5 to 7 minutes? I'm trying to find it here. And I wish you the best of luck, Samesh, and we will be chatting afterwards.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I would now like to introduce you to Samesh with a speech entitled The Contemporary Media. Good luck, Samesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. I'm going to talk about what I did as Division D Director in terms of reinvigorating it in the social media. Before I start this, I wanted to ask you a question. How many of you have a login, have a personal account on Facebook? Everyone. How many of you access it once a day? How many of you access it more than once a day? So this Facebook, it started in 2004 as some kind of university way of where the students can interact with each other socially. And now it's 16 years and there are 2.2 billion active users. So it's an amazing, if you consider that the whole Earth population is 7 billion, 2.2 billion people are using Facebook. So it is an amazing place. It's like a country on its own. You know, if you consider India and China together, it's like two most populous countries together at one place. So that's the amount of people that are actively using Facebook. So it is ubiquitous. If you want to, ubiquitous is something that's seen everywhere. Wherever you go, you see it. But it's not a panacea. Panacea is something that's a cure for everything. So social media, the contemporary media is ubiquitous, but not a panacea. And I wanted to tell something in terms of what I did in terms of using it in the division as Division D Director, the role that I'm doing this year. So first of all, I kind of came up with this tagline, Division D delivers, dynamic, diligent, determined, because it's D, thought of using some terms like that. And we have 4 areas and 20 clubs in Division D. So first of all, when I was actually going into using this, I came to know that the last update was done on April 8th, 2019. So that's when it was used. So for the whole of 2019 to 2020, that page was not used at all. So I went to that page and I wanted to use that page. And I tried to find out who is owning it. And I had to go to 4 people, 4 Toastmasters. And finally, the 4th Toastmaster was able to give me access to this page. And I started, when I went to the first, I thought I'll be successful. No, second, my enthusiasm started decreasing. I was thinking whether I will actually get access to this page or should I create a new page. Then the third, then the 4th. And finally, in the fourth, when I had kind of lost 95% of my faith that I'll be able to reuse this page, suddenly there was a person who knew how I could get access to this page. So I did get access, and after I got access, I kind of did this tagline that we are dynamic, we are diligent, we are determined. Then we have 20 clubs in 4 areas there. So and then I did the description there just to clarify what Division D is, how many areas and how many clubs. Then what I did was this. Once we have this district officer training. So when we did the district officer training, I put a snapshot of that, and then I actually mentioned about the club officer training as well. So that got some good amount of view by different people. Then the most important thing about social media is to keep it constantly updated, because you got a certain percentage of people who are liking and following your page, constantly looking at your feeds. So it's very important to keep that touch with those people who are looking in your page. So then I kind of started sharing more things about the clubs in our area. For example, Kildare Toastmasters got 5 presidents distinguished in a row for 5 consecutive years. So then I just put in, success isn't always about greatness, it's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success, greatness will come. So things like that, if you put in the quotes, motivational quotes. And then there was a club officer training session, more than 100 club officers from 7 divisions attended. So I just put that in as well, saying that we are feeling fantastic. Just promoting. That's what we all do. That's what we have to do in Facebook, in the social media, the contemporary media. Then kind of this post got quite a lot of views, because I kind of tagged all the clubs as well along with that. So it reached 238 people, and it had 67 engagements. It had a lot of comments, a lot of likes. So we just put in who are there in Division D, who are the area directors and division director, and then what are the clubs there, just to give an understanding of what it is. So the main thing about Facebook is have a page, make it interactive, put in some nice what is happening on a day-to-day basis. If we can put that, that is really a great way of engaging the people who are following your page. So finally, to conclude, I would say Facebook's page is a great contemporary medium for mass outreach, because 2.2 billion active users. So it's an amazing. But as Jeff Bezos says, if you make customers unhappy in the physical world, they might tell 6 friends. But if you make customers unhappy on the internet, they can tell 6,000 friends. The reach of internet is unimaginable. The advertising brings in customer, but word of mouth brings in the best customers. So nothing can beat the word of mouth, the personal conversations that we have, but never forget that social media has got a huge impact on bringing people to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Samesh, for that wonderful speech. Now we're going to have a 1 minute time where we can give feedback. So Aidan, if you might time that for us, please. Thank you. Thank you, Aidan. So now we'll break at this stage for about 5 minutes. So we'll resume the meeting at about 9:03, 9:04. Is that all right?
Yes. Lovely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Martina and Deirdre, we have. Okay. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Our next speech this evening is from Martina. And when I asked Martina what inspired her to join Toastmasters, she informed me that her son was getting married in 2011. And because his dad had passed away the previous year, Martina wanted to speak at the wedding. So this was the reason she joined. And because of that decision, she was able to do the speech at the wedding, which was wonderful. Our speech evaluator for Martina's speech is Deirdre. And she told me she'd often thought about joining Toastmasters. And 1 year after completing the Artist Way course, she joined Athlone Toastmasters and Athlone Community Radio. And her aim was to become a more professional speaker. So I would like to call on Deirdre, please, to give the objectives for Martina's speech.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. By coincidence, the person who ran that Artist Way course that I ended up joining both those organisations afterwards was Martina Breen herself. So Martina's speech tonight, it is from the Presentation Mastery series. It is the second level and it is the second part, effective body language. So the purpose of the speech is for the member to deliver a speech with awareness of intentional and unintentional body language, as well as to learn, practice and refine how he or she uses nonverbal communication when delivering a speech. And Martina is a very experienced speaker, so we're really looking for something of a very high quality. So it's a 5 to 7 minute speech. Martina will present a well-organized speech on any topic. I will be watching for her awareness of his or her intentional or unintentional movements and body language. I'll be noting distracting movements as well as movements that enhance the speech, if any. And speech can be humorous, informational, or any style the member chooses. It's not all zoom and gloom from Martina Breen. The very best of luck, Martina.
Thank you, Deirdre. I would now like to introduce Martina with a speech entitled, It's Not All Zoom and Gloom. Thank you. Good luck, Martina.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Some of you may have heard of a movie called Contagion. The plot is about a movie about the spread of a virus which originated in a market in China. It's transmitted through respiratory droplets. The virus spreads rapidly worldwide and a pandemic is declared. No, it's not about 2020. That was actually released in 2011. And yet, the reality is that this unwanted movie has shown up in our lives this year. So for the last 6 months, we have been forced to learn new ways of being with each other, like social distancing, physical distancing, hand sanitizer, mask, all the while waiting for this fictitious director to shout, cut, and that's a wrap. But I'm afraid this movie isn't coming to an end anytime soon. Because fellow Toastmasters, for many of us, we have been working from home and working on video platforms like Zoom, Skype, WebEx, GoToMeeting, and whatever you're having yourself. The effects of this have taken many of us by surprise, and many feel that online meetings are actually more tiring than the face-to-face ones. Because when we meet physically, like when we're in the Prince of Wales and we stand up to do topics or to do a speech, it's not just the words we speak, it is how we are, it is our presence, it is our energy, and it is all to do with our body. Because so many research studies show that the majority of information is passed on from person to person through body language and through the minutiae of movements in our facial expressions. Because when we're using words, we have to think about language, but a smile, a laugh, a facial expression, a hand movement, all of these happen so much more unconsciously and unplanned. So being comfortable on the camera, you know, it doesn't mean that we have to become professional actors or to be a spokesperson, but there are tips that we can learn from these professions to help us to bring into alignment what we want to say and the message that we want to portray. So of course, the first one is eye contact. Like if you think about it, if you want to show someone that you're actually interested in them and in what you have to say, what you want to convey and what you want to hear from them, it's eye contact. But it is the biggest thing that goes astray with Zoom when we're looking down or looking over or looking up, because most people look at the person on the screen rather than looking at the camera. The other thing is to sit up straight or to stand up straight, because when I'm making a statement, when we have square shoulders and when we meet physically, we stand and we take a stance, and good posture actually brings our organs into alignment and facilitates us to be able to speak and function more efficiently. The other thing is, of course, and I'm very much with hands, it is our hand gestures.
Yeah.
Did you know that using your hands when we speak can actually enhance your ability to think, and to formulate your thoughts, and to speak more succinctly? And the last thing I will say about helping us to be on camera is to breathe. And that may seem like a simple thing, but it is the first thing that we forget to do when we're nervous. And conscious breathing actually helps us it facilitates the body to release stress. And of course, with breathing, it helps us to look more grounded, more competent, which of course is vital when you want to be standing and presenting something and to appear like an expert. But what are the faux pas that we do when we're on Zoom? Well, the first thing is that I mentioned before is staring anywhere but at the person. That far away look, or the bored look, or the one that drives me crazy the most is, yeah, what were you saying? And the lounge to look. So it is important that we keep contact with our audience. And then we have the Zoomer. Like me, you do the hair and you do the makeup and you put on the blouse or the shirt, or you have a good shave, and then you have to walk over to get something and you realize the jammies are on. So a faux pas when it comes to being on Zoom. So the bottom line, fellow Toastmasters, is Zoom is here for a while. So take care of your style. Look at the camera. Ensure you have stamina. Take note how you are. And in your movie, you'll be a star. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Martina. Well done. What an enjoyable speech. Now, everybody, we have 1 minute to give comments back and feedback to Martina and Aidan. If you could time that, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Aidan. Now, our third and final speech of the evening is from Helen. And when I asked Helen what inspired her to join Toastmasters, she informed me in 2 words, the men. Maybe we need to look at how we advertise Athlone Toastmasters in the future, because maybe we're missing a trick here. Our speech evaluator for this speech is Siobhan. She told me she initially joined to get out of the house and enjoy some adult conversation, as she had 2 children aged under 2 years of age at the time. But she got so much more than that from Toastmasters, and she plans on being a member for life. So now I would call on Siobhan to give the objectives, please, for Helen's speech.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Helen may have been coming to Toastmasters for the men, and I was coming to get away from the men. So, but the purpose of Helen's speech tonight, she tells me it's her first speech. This is a big, big occasion. It's her first speech on Zoom. And the purpose of the speech, the 2 purposes are for the member to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback then to a second speech. And also for the member to present a speech and receive feedback from the evaluator. And I was just watching Helen there as Martina was giving her masterclass. Helen, I think, was trying to put all of those tips into practice immediately. No pressure, Helen. You'll do brilliant. Best of luck.
Okay, just check the time in, Siobhan, please.
Sorry, the time is 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to now introduce you to Helen with a speech entitled Reopening Schools, Redefining Schooling. Best of luck, Helen. Thank you. Helen, are you on mute?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, that's great. Good luck, Helen.
Sorry, that's not my title.
Okay.
My title is Survival.
Okay. Thank you, Helen.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. My aunt, Mary Ellen, was my dad's older sister by 7 years. We were not precocious young children, and our infant tongue could not pronounce her name. And so we gave her the name Mamie. So forevermore, we called her Mamie. Mamie was born in 1916. She was the eldest of 4 siblings. She was born 2 years after the First World War started, and it raged for 2 years of her life. So basically, she was born into strife. Her father used to say that Mary Ellen was the cause of the rebellion. In 1916, the Irish people fought for their freedom from the British rule. And the fact that Mary Ellen was born in that year, she was the cause of that rebellion. In 1923, the British brought over a group of notorious, untrained soldiers known as the Black and Tans to actually quash that rebellion. They raided farms and raided houses and did untold damage to our country and to our people. And people, in living memory, people hate Black and Tans. But they raided the farm that she lived on, and they put her father up against the barn to shoot him. My grandmother came out with her 3 small children and a babe in her arms, who happened to be my father, and pleaded with them not to shoot him, that she needed him desperately. And she won her case. That was during 1916. That battle raged for about 4 to 5 years in Ireland and claimed the lives of 30,000 people. When she was 20, the Great Depression came upon Ireland. There was no employment. There was mass emigration. The country nearly collapsed, and the world economy collapsed also. When she was 23, she went to England to find employment. She was very shortly there in 1939 when the Second World War broke out, where Germany invaded Poland. When she was working, the workers were called in to listen to the radio to hear a Second World War had started. She came home then. She came home to a very impoverished nation with, she remembers food rations. She remembers poverty. She remembers desperate times for all the young families. At Christmas, she was lucky to get a sod of turf in her Christmas stocking, and the youngest, an orange if they were lucky. She always remembers the Christmas they killed the goose and they put it on the kitchen table. Unfortunately for them, the dog got the goose, and poor Mary Ellen, or Mamie, felt sorry for the dog. That war, in the Second World War, claimed 75 million people and 6 million people in the Holocaust. When she was 30, the disease called TB or tuberculosis raged in Ireland, and many of her neighbours died of this, and many of her friends also. Mamie escaped the disease, as did her family. 10,000 people in Ireland died from this pandemic between 1950 and 1960. A very interesting statistic came to me online when I was researching for this to tell me that in 2019, 1.5 million people died last year from TB. TB is preventable and curable, and the WHO, the World Health Organization, hope that in 2030 they will have it eradicated altogether. At 60, Chernobyl broke out and Sellafield nearby. It ruined the waters of the Irish Sea. And yet, we ate fish. We're still here to prove it, and so is Mamie. When she was 70, she went to Lourdes on a pilgrimage, and though a chain smoker all her life, she came home and never smoked again. That was long before the smoking ban came into Ireland. She was then a great cook. She was an admirable person always, and she was very, very generous, right to her fingertips. At Christmas, she would cook 10 Christmas cakes, most for presents for all of us, and 4 or 5 were always kept for raffles. In her 86th year, she was driving over to Mallara, a pub in outside Ballymahon, I'm sure some of you may know it, for a raffle for her local area. Her husband Frank drove the car in his 86th year, and he hit the bridge in Ballykieran outside Athlone, and both died on impact. The family were devastated to lose our Mamie. But in hindsight, though her daughter, her only daughter, was pure devastated, we all say now that they both died going to a party. Weren't they lucky? Mamie lived through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, chain smoking, TV, and finally a car accident took her life. Today in Ireland, the statistics would tell you that 900,000 deaths worldwide have happened from COVID-19. 1,777 of those deaths are in Ireland. And though we have a pandemic worldwide, in Ireland, our statistics aren't that high when you think of it. We have 5 million people in the country. If Mamie was here today, she would just pray for a cure for this virus, and she would trust in her God. She would always say, all manner of all things will be well with the help of God. Let us all here then, with a good cleansed hand, lend a hand to the people around you. With your, I've lost it, I'm just like Martina now. With your face mask, you can wear a smile and you can see it in your eyes, because eyes are so important. And we, I suppose, through COVID, have learned one great thing, and it's to treasure the closeness of family and friendship. And let us all do that with the fine social distancing. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Helen. That was a very interesting and thought-provoking speech. Now, if we could all take a minute to give some feedback, please, and Aidan, if you can time that for me, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now we're at the evaluations stage of our meeting, and I will be calling on the evaluators to give reports, and then we'll go to the timer and grammarian and general evaluator. So we'll start with the speech evaluators, and if I could first have Joe, please.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Just before I start, actually, Sept before the meeting sent me a fantastic link to an online form here, and I've gotten caught out before by using offline tools. And as a result, and I have to make a confession to Deirdre, sorry Deirdre, because I did a speech evaluation for Deirdre some weeks ago, and I need to go over that with you again, because all that information was lost as soon as the meeting was lost, because I was writing my notes, and then because the meeting went on so long, my laptop lost power and everything was gone. So this online thing is fantastic, so I can fill it in and I can submit it and Sept gets it live. So, okay, sorry about that aside. So thank you all members, and most especially Sept, great speech. And I'll just go through the elements of the form now. And first things that pop out for us are things that you excel at. And Sept, I kind of grown to know you over the years, and I know that you're somebody who jumps right into things, whether it's area director or whatever it is, but you really grab the bull by the horns. And so just like anything else, you've immersed yourself in this project and you're able to call on relevant real life experience. And that's something that you excel at. And that's what I'm putting on this form. And the next thing is something on the form. It says that you might need to work on. And it's something that we're all guilty of. And Martina touched on it very much there, is eye contact, because our eye contact on Zoom is looking directly at the camera like I'm doing now for the very first time ever since I've used Zoom, because I'm always reading something on screen, or I'm looking at various people on the screen, or the timer, or even, because I'm so vain, my own image on screen. So I know you were going through notes because you had to, because you were giving a presentation, but it's just something, maybe if you had a second device over it, just behind the camera that you could see, that could be a solution to it. So to challenge yourself next time, perhaps minimize Zoom and maybe pick a speech or a project that doesn't require notes, so you can just hit that camera with both eyes, because that's how we're going to establish that eye contact for you. It's a very difficult thing, I absolutely know. So that is your challenge for the next speech. Now, your clarity of language, of course, I'm going to give you a 4 on that. You used well-established tools, you know, the rules of 3. You gave us a fantastic one there when you were describing the force behind the COT, you know, and the consistency, and you talked about dynamic, diligent, and determined. And your vocal variety, of course, changes throughout the speech, which is an important thing to keep us all interested. And you do so appropriately, along with all of your hand gestures. So I've got that covered as well. And let's see, audience awareness. Of course, you establish this straight away, or because the first thing you did to engage us was you asked a question. And you didn't just do that, you followed it on with another question and another question. I was disappointed that you didn't ask the question, who here accesses their Facebook account maybe once every 3 months? It seemed to get shorter with time, not longer with time. So anyway, your comfort level, you are well inside your comfort zone. This is absolutely your territory. And just your tools there that you use to engage your audience. You ask questions, then you do a bit of explaining, and then something else that you do, and you do it very well, is that you demonstrate what it is that you've just explained. And that followed through is an essential element from making a good speech into a great speech. And what was this? Oh, topic. It was the last thing. I've never seen this on the form before, but where you shared the impact of initiating or increasing a social media presence. Well, what I have to say about that, and you mentioned a thing called consistency, and it's absolutely borne out by a lot of professional speakers and, you know, motivational speakers who would say things like, without commitment, you would never start a project. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish it. And Semesh, you certainly have finished this, and I'm submitting this now, so that's my consistency done. So I want to say well done to you, and looking forward to the next one. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Joe. And Aidan, could I just get the timings for Semesh's speech, if you have it there, please?
At 7:29, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. And have you the evaluation yet?
Yes, for Joseph there, 4 minutes 10.
Whew, I thought that was the 7:24.
Thank you, Aidan. Now, can I call on Deirdre, please, to give evaluation for Martina's speech?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Before I start, if I could have the timing for Martina's speech, Aidan, please.
6 minutes and 8 seconds.
6 minutes, 8 seconds. Very well done, Martina, on a speech that is up to your normal, extremely professional standard. It's interesting to see a very experienced speaker, both in Toastmasters and outside of Toastmasters, tackle a topic at the earlier stages like body language. It's such a basic but really important element of any speech. So I certainly have learned loads. Well, first of all, what you excelled at, in my opinion, it was a clear, well-structured, well-organized speech, and it was dotted with humor, involved plenty of movement, and of course, all carried over with your outstanding presence. I suppose what I thought, there was two things maybe that I thought I was slightly knocked out by. One was maybe the first time that you moved back and forth. I was sure you were on a wheelie chair going back and forth, but you were actually standing going back and forth. So that's me, you know, it's nothing to do with you. But I thought that you did the movement, the intentional movement, extremely well. It was clear that you wasted nothing. Now, I didn't spot any unintentional movement at all. I thought everything was very well designed to do exactly as you planned to do. You know, you mentioned about the hand gestures, extending the ability to think and to help formulate your speech. You demonstrated that perfectly. I liked all the points that you gave about, you know, the eye contact, the good posture, the hand gestures, and the breathing, all really important things. I suppose if I had maybe one slight issue was the bit about eye contact. Now, I made your screen bigger because I wanted to watch and see exactly what was happening, but there's some sort of a shine. Now, maybe there is a shine in my glasses. There is actually, I can see it. A shine on your eyes. You can see it, yeah. A shine on your eyes that I couldn't quite get all the time, whether you were looking at me or the camera. There was a little bit about looking up, and again, I couldn't tell whether you were actually looking at the camera, which I'm failing to do. I'm still looking down at you. Now I'm looking at the camera. And what I would love as a challenge for you to give us a course, give us a speech on how actually to do a Zoom presentation. And I'm going to include in that the camera angle. Should you stand or should you sit? About moving forward and back, you know, how not to overdo it, how to keep it so that you're holding the attention, and how to remind yourself always to look at the camera, which, as I said, I'm mostly failing. So I love the title. I have to say that I really love the title. You know, I don't think you could have got it better. It's not all doom and gloom. It's the whole thing was very contemporary, from the title of the movie Contagion to bring in the COVID-19 in such a nice way, in such a flowing, smooth way throughout the speech. You certainly demonstrated the importance of body language. So overall, I thought it was very interesting, very well presented, nice, simple, clear speech. I would like you though to slow down slightly, because I was trying to take notes so I could exactly tell you what had happened. I listened by writing, I have to say, partially listened by writing. So there was nothing wrong with your pace, except for somebody who's trying to write down and capture whatever your points are. So very well done. I'd love to see you challenge yourself and educate us on the whole entire package about how to do superb presentations on Zoom, much like you've demonstrated yourself. Very well done, Martina. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre. And Aidan, if I could just get a time in for that evaluation, please.
3:49.
Thank you. And now can I call on Siobhan, please, to give us an evaluation on Helen's speech.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Helen. Helen, I knew you were a little bit nervous before this speech tonight because it was your first time to present online, but I have to say you really did an exceptional job, so well done from the outset. And thank you for sharing this lovely, warm story with us about your aunt, Mary Ellen, or as you fondly refer to her as Mamie. Your affection and your respect, deep respect for Mamie was very evident through your relaxed storytelling style. I really liked how you opened with the story and then you continued to develop that story in a chronological way. So the structure was very clear and strong from the beginning. I also liked your delivery style, your really clear voice, your very even pace, and the simple language that you use throughout the story really, really helped to hit home the message. I don't think more elaborate language would have worked in this situation. And I think what you especially excelled in was how you managed to weave personal story with boring historical facts. You know, I don't really like to hear lists of historical facts and dates, but yet when you weave a personal story throughout them, as you did expertly, that really helps to draw the audience and the listener in. So you did that especially well. And also just connecting it with the relevance of the current pandemic was very clever how you did that to keep us interested and engaged. And my recommendation, and I think this is maybe consistent tonight, and I hope I'm doing an okay job right now, because Helen, you said yourself, and I'm going to quote you, you said the eyes are so important. And that's my recommendation tonight, is eye contact. This was your first time to speak online. I know, and I think we all know, that you have amazing skills and abilities face to face that you've gained throughout your time in Toastmasters. But eye contact is the real challenge, I think, when you're presenting on Zoom, and not looking at the person, because I'm not looking at you right now from my side of the camera, but I'm doing my best to stay looking through the camera so that it comes across as if I'm looking at you. So that's kind of something that we all probably need to practice a little bit. One thing that I find helps me is I have a little smiley face sticker up beside my camera. So I'm looking at that smiley sticker. Looks a little bit like you, Helen, but not the real deal. So in conclusion, I think, Helen, you presented us with a beautiful story that showed your respect for Mamie's resilience and her realness. A very heartwarming, inspirational story in a way, because you also provided us with a solution, an example from her life as to how she might deal with the pandemic if she was here now. And I think there's great wisdom in that, just praying to God. But something that I'd like to add on to that is, I remember somebody said to me, yeah, pray to God if you're out on the ocean, but row like hell for the shore yourself as well. So I think a combination of those might help. But a fantastic speech, just really, really expert storytelling. There's a lot we can all learn from your style. But I think just with a little bit more careful attention on eye contact, you'll have no bother at all. You'll be zooming all around the place, Helen. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siobhan. And now, Aidan, I might just get the timings on Helen's speech and Siobhan's evaluation when you're ready.
Yeah, Helen's speech was 9:17 and Siobhan's evaluation was 3:53.
Okay, thank you very much, Aidan. Now, I, at this stage, would want to call on our grammarian for the evening, David, to give us his report, please. David, are you there?
Unmute there, David.
Is that better?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes,
Grant,
David.
Grant. Sorry, I hadn't unmuted there. No, as grammarian, I have to admit now, being out of practice in Toastmasters, I wasn't all that good on the counting the ums and ahs, and there was none that were glaring examples. Everybody really spoke clearly and logically, and I was just enthralled by the stories that people were telling. I found some very good use of language. The words of ubiquitous and panacea, that wouldn't be used in everyday language, you know, depending on what you work at or where or who you hang out with. They're very interesting words. I like to use the word faux pas. It's just a whole nicer way to say mistake or cock up. My word for the day, precocious, that has fallen down from behind me. That was used once, and actually it was used in a prepared speech, which I'm especially chuffed about. So so I got my word of the day got its a showing as well. Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. And now can I call on James for the General Evaluator report, please?
I'll try to remember to unmute and then put this down. I realize that if this is up, it doesn't work. Yeah, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. We had a great meeting this evening. We had 15 attendees and 3 guests. It was great to see the guests arriving this evening. So Maeve kept a very good eye on the timing from the beginning, was anxious to ensure that we wouldn't run too far over. So I think we were just 2 minutes over the starting point, so that was really good to be on top of that. Very warm welcome and introduction from Maeve to all of us, and gave us the thought that we should be good to be nice and to be grateful for small things in life and to generate those positive vibes that will make everybody else's life so much easier. Antoinette took over as the Toastmaster. I'm not sure how long. I don't feel like Antoinette has been a member for very long, I'm just going to have a note here. I thought you were excellent and an example of a precocious member, I think, of this club. So you're excelling beyond the time you spent in here in the club. You did a really good job explaining the role and the structure of the meeting, a very smooth, professional, conversational style, and giving us introductions to each role, and then each segues in between each of the sections of the meeting. So that was very well done, Antoinette. And I like particularly the fact that you reached out to the different roles and had a common theme and a question that you wanted to ask each member, like what inspired you to join Toastmasters. And I think that had a very nice feel to it throughout the meeting, and it made the job you did come across as very, very professional. So Aidan was introduced as timer, did a really good job, very clear, very professional again on the use of the bells and the cards. So well done, Aidan, there. And David as grammarian gave us a tricky, challenging word, precocious, and we got a couple of uses of that throughout the meeting. So getting into the topics, we had a good selection of topics. Have I anything of note to report here? Yeah, we had topics about cooking, mothers and grandmothers, understanding themselves, and a theme that we would commonly associate with summation. I'm grateful for him to keep this theme common and fresh for us. And then we think we ended up with the Zoom, a very good discussion and very good points by Timothy, our guest today, on the relevance and the practicalities of keeping going with Zoom in the current situation. David also added on that there were some good points, like, for example, not having to put much effort into looking presentable. And I agreed with that, having just got off the treadmill 5 minutes before the meeting, and hopefully nobody picked up on that. So that brought us up to the first speech. I want to comment on the speech, and I meant to comment on the evaluations. As I said at the outset, we have a bevy of 3 very experienced evaluators, so all I can do is maybe make 1 or 2 comments and not make any reasonable suggestions. At least I could think of none. But I like the fact that Joe used the structure of the form that's used in Pathways to help the evaluator to pick out all the different areas that should be evaluated on behalf of the speaker. And I think that formed a good checklist, and it meant that Joe's evaluation was extremely thorough. And I think that approach, using that form as a checklist, worked extremely well. Moving on to the second speech, so not all Zoom and gloom. Again, not meant to comment on the speech, but I did feel that Martina gave a masterclass in body language and gestures and proved it really can be done on Zoom. I thought it couldn't, but I think she proved it can. I did the old staple of counting the positives, and I lost count at 10 in the evaluation from Deirdre. So Deirdre did an exceptional job in being positive and giving positive feedback, and also some recommendations, some very good recommendations. I think it's a really good idea, Deirdre, to try and twist Martina's arm and to bring us a speech forward sometime on how to do Zoom as a master. I think she shows that you can definitely do that. So there were two very good recommendations, including the pace, but particularly about giving a presentation on Zoom mastery. That would be great to see that. Siobhan's evaluation, I don't have anything other than to say that I felt it was a very warm and supportive evaluation. I liked that. Also, actually, a point that Deirdre also brought up and Siobhan also brought up is the whole thing about eye contact, and it really is very difficult to see how eye contact could be used and evaluated. But I like the idea from Siobhan of having the smiley face at the camera. And I hadn't even thought about the fact that we're not looking at the camera, we're looking at the people. And that's something that we can all take forward and help us to improve our engagement with the speakers. And then finally, David, you're not really out of practice as grammarian. You did an excellent job as grammarian this evening. It's a very good report. I too was enthralled by all the stories. And I found your report quite sharp and fresh. And I think that's about all I have for you this evening. I've probably gone way over time, but thank you very much.
Thanks very much, James, for that comprehensive report. Now it's almost time for me to finish up. And before I end, I just want to thank our guests, Anne, Timothy and Charles, that have come to the meeting, and invite you to come back at any time. We always love to welcome our guests and get new guests onto our meeting. I would like to thank everyone that supported me in carrying out this role. This is my first time doing this role as Toastmaster, so I appreciate any help that was given to me. I also want to thank everyone that shared with me all of their thoughts on what prompted them to join Toastmasters in the first place, and I appreciated all the feedback I got. I would like to end on the following thought, which links back to what inspired many of us to join Toastmasters in the first place, and just to say to remember that you learn more from failure than success, and Toastmasters is a friendly and encouraging place for us all to work on our communication and leadership skills. Thank you, and I want to hand back to Maeve.
Thanks, Antoinette.
And over job tonight for your first time. I can't believe it. It was excellent. And we certainly, everything went to time, and we're not too bad on time now. My final word is thank you for taking the time to sit with us and be in the zone with us on Zoom. Let's make our world a little bit better this week by saying something positive as many times as we can to people you may think need it, and sometimes to people you may think don't need it either, because obviously some people can put a front up and it's not really how they're feeling. So let's end on a positive note. And I'm looking straight at the camera this time, which I've never done before. So thank you, Martina, for that tip. I will keep it in my mind always. Again, one more thing. We're still looking for a secretary that might interest some of you that are not already on the committee.
please contact myself or Samesh, and we will talk you through the process of it. Thank you again, and good night, and have a good sleep and rest. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And I hope you got a little bit out of tonight and saw the whole concept of Toastmasters. So you can mull on that now. There'll be no pressure. And you can join us again another night if you wish.
Thank you. I would have left a text that I didn't know how to do it on it. So I'll have to research how to leave a text message.
Yes.
Oh.
It depends on the device. Yeah, it depends on the device that you're on, I think. It's different on different ones. And
it's an Android phone at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm on the iPad, so mine is different again. It's in the settings on the top on mine. It's in more, and there's a chat feature, but I suppose it depends on maybe someone with Android to be able to tell you there.
I believe it chat, I can't remember now because I was on the phone until recently, at the bottom under dot. There should be a little red bubble on it actually on your phone because there have been some chats.
I think I've just disappeared now at the moment off it, but anyway, I'll have to resume at it again.
It's frozen.
Don't worry about
thanks
it.
for coming.
Yeah.
And whereabouts in Roscommon are you, Anne?
I'm not too far from Maeve, actually. I live in Kiltoom.
All right. Okay.
Up Bridget, Anne, were you happy on Sunday?
Up Bridget, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not too far from Antoinette either.
And Aidan as well is in Brideswell.
Oh,
yeah, Aidan is in Brideswell, so that's another Bridget supporter. So.
Oh yeah, we're on the winning team again then.
Very good.
Yes, and I learned to look at the little camera as well, which is a wonderful thing.
I know. I think that's actually very hard. It's very hard to do that because you tend to look
on mine.
I like the little smiley face as well. Thanks very much.
Yeah, great tip, Siobhan. Yeah.
I might try that actually.
Just make sure you don't cover your camera with the smiley face.
True.
Over your head.
David, have you managed to read any of those Toastmaster magazines yet?
No.
Neither have I, and I'm a member since 2014.
They're really good.
They're really good when you get a chance to open the plastic and have a look at some of the articles. And I have some that are in pristine condition, still have my address written on them, plastic covered, hermetically sealed.
I'll take them.
What I find
I have many of them.
is they try really, really hard to be international and not just American, and they fail. They are so very, very American, and they're trying so hard not to be.
Well, there's always the District 71 newsletter.
Goodbye.
Bye,
Good night, Helen. Good to see you.
Stay safe.
We're a little bit books out you.
See you all soon.
Yeah.
See you, Siobhan.
See you, Siobhan. Oh, Tim, please tell me you have a Kindle.
Oh, yes.
Me? No.
Yes. What? What do you do on holidays? You're not going to bring that whole bookshelf with you.
Back.
My holidays tend to be short. I very rarely go away for a week. I go away for like 4 days, 2 days.
Well, that's 2 books. You know, they weigh a lot.
Very, very full of things. I go to events, not to. Terry Pratchett, Discworld meetups or historical meetups, SCA reenactment stuff. And it depends, like you've got small books.
Well,